What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Fishing OD. In today's video, I got Darian with me and we're taking the ass tracker out for a little evening sesh on some largemouth bass. And in this video, I kind of want to explain how I break down my dock fishing for these largies. To some people, it comes very naturally, and to others, it takes some time to get used to. But I'm going to break down the different kinds of docks. I'm going to break down the different kinds of structure that lay underneath these docks. And I'm going to be focusing mainly on the bait casting techniques today, like flipping a jig, Texas rig, glide baits, all that stuff. If you guys enjoy this video, in a future episode, I will probably go through the spinning rod techniques to fish docks, because when you're fishing docks, you don't just need to be using a bait caster, but I prefer using them because I like having that heavier line to really horse those fish out before they get wrapped around the columns. We're going to be idling out here and we're just going to be hopping on the trolling motor right away. And I'm going to be talking to you guys a little bit about how we break down these docks. So stay tuned and hopefully we crack a big fish for you guys.
Count my money while I'm counting these blessings. Mountain setbacks, those were just lessons. Moving too fast, had to set a pace. Bleeding my goals, shit ain't no race. Hennessy straight, I'm only chasing money. Smart nigga, mama ain't raised no jungle. Staying drama free, but if you bring a bigger runner, as a youngin' I learned bullshit about nothing. Nigga me losing, there ain't no way. My homie just died in the crowd all day. Tomorrow ain't promised, I put that on my mom.
All right, guys, so we're not at a dock just yet, but instantly as I pull out of this little canal, I see some overhanging trees. So the bait of choice for these trees is gonna be this little skipping jig. This one in particular is by Freedom, I believe, and this skips really well. This is just a green pumpkin color. I'm just gonna be making a cast under this tree and, oh, I backlashed. All right, guys, so the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna tighten up these brakes, because if I'm doing skipping, you gotta make sure you tighten up your brakes. In this case, I'm just playing around with the magnetic braking system. I'm gonna set this really high so I don't get any backlashes. And I'm just gonna skip it right under there, as far in as I can, wait for those bites, and see if there's any fish waiting to ambush. All right, guys, so one of the docks that you're gonna come up to when you're fishing is gonna be these little floating docks like the one you see behind me. In this case, this is one for Sea-Doo. But when I'm approaching a dock like this, if the weed cover isn't too heavy, I'm gonna throw a structure jig in there, skipping jig, whatever you wanna call them. But basically, I'm gonna put it right towards the back end of the side of the dock. I could have gone a little closer, but most bass would come out for that if they were to see it. You can always put it closer, put it to the front end of the dock. There's one. Oh, that's a nice fish. That didn't take very long. That's a good fish. So that one came out right from the front. That's a beautiful fish on the structure jig right there. That's what it looks like. Just like a little 1.5, 2 pounder. We're gonna put it right back. I'm just gonna let it go like that. And that was like the first type of dock you're gonna see. And there could be multiple fish under there. There could be 2, 3, 4. If the dock's big enough, you could even have like up to 10, 15 fish under them. I'm gonna leave that one alone for now. I'm pretty happy that I caught a fish under there. There could be a giant that I'm passing up, but I wanna move on to the next type of dock. So for the next type of dock that you often find out on the lake is gonna be these like suspended metal docks. And these do hold some good fish, but oftentimes your wooden docks and wooden pylons are gonna hold a lot more fish. And I really like those suspending docks like the one I just casted at, because you don't have to be too afraid of hitting it, but obviously you want to be very careful. But right next to me, I have a few docks that are metal beams, and these, if you hit these, they're really loud. And obviously when you're flipping docks and stuff, you don't want to be hitting people's boats.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
How do you know how loud they are when you hit them?
I've never hit one, I couldn't tell you. So this dock that I have lined up right here, I'm going to be doing a little skip. I'm going to be trying to get it right underneath, and hopefully we pull a fish out from underneath it. So that went directly underneath. I didn't get it very far. That's more than enough distance to catch a fish.
Oh,
that's what that's what it sounds like when you hit a boat. All right, I'm gonna try to put it in a little bit deeper. So in that case, I'm right on the inside of one of the columns, or the poles, I should say. So far, seems like there's nothing on it. All right, so I repositioned myself a little bit. Now I have a good angle to do a nice pitch. So I'm gonna be pitching it towards the back side of the dock. On days like today where we're coming out in the evening, where you cast on the dock's not gonna be as important. But on those high sunny days, you want to really cast in the shade line, which is usually at the back end of the dock. So I'm just gonna do a little pitch towards the back end like that. Let it hit bottom, feel for bites, twitch, twitch. Nothing so far. All right guys, so this is another example of a floating dock. These are like made usually out of plastic or whatever, rubber, whatever you want to call it. And these types of docks, I really like to throw a glide bait because these fish love to ambush out from under these, because the dock is directly above them and it creates really nice cover for them to ambush bait fish and stuff. And for some reason, I just have a lot of confidence throwing my bigger glide baits on docks like this. So I'm gonna see if I could get one on this, and I'm gonna show you kind of how I fish this glide bait. So for these kind of docks, I like to set myself up kind of parallel to them because I like making a cast all along the wall. I'm just gonna be doing an underhand pitch, and I'm just gonna be gliding this out and under. I have 2 of them chasing it already. Oh my God, I had 2 fish chase it immediately. So I already had 2 fish come out for the glide bait. I'm gonna try throwing another cast in there. Hopefully they crush it this time. We're gonna try cast number 3, and if this doesn't work, we're gonna move on to a different type of bait. All right, so when fish come out like this and they don't eat it, I like to tend to throw a Senko back at them. I did a video on that last year. I'll link it up above. That's called the 1-2 punch. You move a fish on the glide bait, you throw a Senko at them and they tend to eat it. But I'm gonna show you how I approach it with a jig. It's basically the same way I approached the last dock. You're just gonna put it right next to it. You can't get it under these docks, but if you put it right next to it, there's a good chance the fish is gonna eat it. Back pocket, that's it. Not a giant, guys, but that fish came out of the back pocket. Nice little guy off a floating dock again. They just like to eat that jig so hard. That's what it looks like. Little fish, little guy. We're just gonna get it right back. I just always try to hit the corners with these. There, I'm getting bit. Oh, that was a nice one. I always hit my GoPro. I put hooks in him, so I don't think he's gonna end up coming back for it. Let's try to put it at the backside because there could be another fish sitting towards the backside. Drop it right down to bottom. Sometimes you get picked up immediately, like right now, I'm getting picked up immediately. I'm gonna feel for the fish. He's still on it, I believe. All right guys, so the next important thing I wanna talk about, it's something I feel is really important, is gonna be when to use fluorocarbon for flipping. And I'm such a big advocate of using fluorocarbon for flipping, especially on docks, much less around weeds. If you're fishing a lot of docks that don't have a lot of weed cover underneath, I love throwing fluoro, and I almost exclusively throw fluoro. Those docks that I just fished and missed a couple, I literally blame that on the fact that I wasn't using fluorocarbon. For the most part, I don't miss too many fish on fluorocarbon. I hope I don't jinx it. I've done a lot of experimenting with fluoro. I've done everything from 25 all the way down to 12 for flipping docks. And for up here in Canada, I think that sweet spot is gonna be right between 15-pound fluoro and 17-pound fluoro. You don't need to go as heavy as 20. If you want that little extra abrasion resistance, go for it. But you're just gonna have a lot more headaches than anything. Today I'm using 12 actually because this is my jerkbait reel. I don't have a specific reel spooled up with fluoro currently, but for the most part, there shouldn't be any issues if you're using 12. You're just gonna get a little bit more stretch and you might miss a few more fish. For up north here in Canada, I really recommend using between 15 to 17-pound fluoro. I'm a big fan of Sunline in particular, but for you guys down south, obviously you're flipping with 20, 25, even 30-pound fluoro sometimes, which up here in Canada where your biggest bass is usually gonna be between 6 and 7 pounds at its highest, that's a bit much for us. So I'm gonna go approach these docks now, and I'm gonna break them down the exact same way I showed you guys how to break down the other ones. So it's gonna be a lot less talking, more fishing. I put on the chesty because I figured I'd give you guys a second angle. I'm gonna do a little flip to the side here. This looks like a really nice area to get bit. I like to keep my rod tip really high up. If I get bit, I want to drop that rod down and crack the hook as quickly and as powerfully as I can. Obviously without exaggerating, you don't want to snap your line. But here's another nice dock. I'm going to try to put it as close as I can to being underneath. In this case, I didn't get it underneath, but it's enough to catch a fish. Is that a fish? Oh yeah, that's what happens. If I didn't have my brakes tight, that would be a backlash I definitely wouldn't be able to fix. The thing with fluoro is if you kink it, it could actually break right where you kinked it. All right, let's go to the back of the boat. Oh, that's a perfect skip. Right underneath. Gonna let it sink down. I did not get bit there. Not yet, at least. If I were to get bit right away, guys, I would feel it and I would definitely see it out of all things. Anytime you're unsure if it's a fish, guys, just hold your line tight, wait for those bites to come in, and if you feel it's a fish, and if you're confident enough, jack the hook on it. As far as jig color, guys, you can get really complicated with it or you can get really simple. Clear water, generally natural colors. Darker water, black and blue. But I find black and blue works in clear water in low pressured fisheries really well. So I have a black and blue tied on, and on my other rod, I have like a green pumpkin with some purple and stuff. It's a really nice color. I'll put that back in there. All right, so right now, guys, I'm perfectly set up to give a pitch right under this dock. Let it sink right down to bottom. I'm currently using a 3/8 ounce flipping jig, skipping jig, whatever you want to call it. And it seems on this outer edge, there's no fish because I didn't catch one. So I'm gonna start moving around it a little bit. I could always do some pitches over the beams, but that's a good recipe for heartbreak. So I'm just gonna put it, oops. So I'm just gonna put it right in between these stairs. Let that go right down to bottom. Tighten my line to make sure I'm not getting bit. Drop it back down. Nothing on it. All right, guys, now the type of dock we're gonna be approaching is your deeper docks. These are, again, metal beams and stuff, but these docks are actually pretty deep and they hold some fish, that's for sure. I don't know if they're gonna be holding fish right now. We're not gonna get too close, but these docks definitely could be holding some fish right now. Je veux tes poissons? Ouais, c'est correct si je prends un couple de lancer? All right. Ouais. On va voir là. All right, so I'm gonna try to put it as close as I can to the dock, obviously without hitting it. Let it sink. Right now I'm drifting a little bit, so this could get bad. I have a fish on right now. I don't usually hook set like that, straight up. Oh, that's a good fish, Darian. That's a good fish. I'm gonna get it. Hopefully it doesn't get off. C'était vite, hein? All right. So that was pretty quick. I'm gonna back us out of here. So that fish came out for it immediately. I had to hook set up because of the way the dock was positioned. If I would have hook set to the right, I would have been hitting the dock. So I hook set straight up. It's not ideal, but I still managed to catch this nice fish. Awesome. That splashed Darian a little bit, guys. Never neglect structure. There could be fish up against anything. In this case, it's a time of day thing again. Everything I'm casting at, there's no fish. And yeah, I'm confident to say there's no fish because usually if there's fish, they're gonna bite. You're not always gonna catch them, but they're gonna bite. All right, guys, that's it for this video. We just got off the water. It got dark very quickly. I keep forgetting that these summer nights are just getting shorter and shorter, but I hope you guys learned something. And if you did, go ahead and drop a like. Comment down below if you guys want to see a more in-depth video on stuff like this. I could do one about spinning rods on docks and stuff like that, or just any kind of tutorial that you guys want to see while we still have some open water here up in Quebec. Let me know down in the comments below. And do me a favor, guys, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. I would really appreciate that. Hit that bell button, that way you can be notified as to when I post a new video. And thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.
Count my money while I'm counting these blessings. Mountain setbacks, those were just lessons. Moving too fast.